Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. Today we're going to have a little bit of a different type of program. My guest today is Paksy Plackis-Cheng, and she is the founder and creator of a very interesting concept. We were going to talk about that, however, she decided she would rather talk a little more about Global Connections Television. So we're going to do a dual interview. There will be a reversal of roles, a switching of the table if you would like. So we will get into it. We'll see how this goes. It's going to be a very different type of program. Paksy, welcome to today's Global Connections program. I didn't introduce you properly, but you're a Dutch native and you've lived in the U.S. since 2001. You've had really a very expansive career spanning from managing marketing and business development for software companies. You've won a wide range of awards and you have Impact Mania.
Yes.
So welcome again. And
thank you,
let's
Bill.
jump right into it and talk about Impact Mania for a few minutes, and then we'll talk about Global Connections Television as long as you would like. This is a very interesting request, I might mention. This is the first that's happened. Well, we'll see how it goes. We may never do it again, or we may do it every time. So, but anyway, tell me about Impact Mania.
So Impact Mania was founded last year, and it was launched at UCSB, the university in Santa Barbara. And I promised people there that I would uncover impact makers, so people who would drive cultural, social, and economic impact. Last year, I've interviewed 200 plus people across 5 continents. And one of my videos was featured at the recent UN Global Compact Conference in April, and is also now part of Every Woman, Every Child on their website. So very excited, and very excited to be here. I'm almost giddy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So our viewers can go to impactmania.com
Yes.
and see more as to what you're talking about.
We're doing a women issue this time.
Okay, how do you select your topics? Do you have a wide range of topics that you focus on, or do people call you, or both?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, I think it probably happens with how you do this. I come across people, and I really find that in the media we often talk about what is wrong with our world, and I would like to show that there's actually many, many people across the globe that are doing something about issues like Syria and the refugee issues, environmental issues. So we cover science, technology, business, a lot of social enterprises, and arts and culture. Yeah.
Sounds like you cover the waterfront. You really got quite a reach there. That's excellent. Right. What would you like to do with it in the future? Where would you like Impact Mania to be 5-10 years from now?
Right. Wow, that's a great question. Usually I'm very forward thinking, but I have been just enjoying the journey so much that I hope it will grow, and I hope we'll uncover more and more people. One of the things that we've been doing is connecting people with each other. So not just putting the interviews up, but some organizations have started working together. 2 nonprofits announced a strategic alliance, and I would like to see more of that people find each other, who then collaboratively drive impact, because as you know, Bill, it takes across sectors to make impact happen.
It certainly does. There's no doubt about that, yes. Well, it sounds like you're really moving into it very nicely, and I look forward to hearing more about it in the future, and also of the possibility that you may have your own TV program in the future or something like that. So
we can co-chair maybe.
There you go. Co-moderate. That sounds good, yes. Well, I promised you we would talk more about Global Connections Television, and I hope people are interested in it, but I'll just turn the chair over to you.
Yes.
The gavel over to you, the microphone over to you.
Thank you for letting go of control. I really liked the interviewer to be, that I get a chance to interview you. So we're here now at the UN studio. What kind of institution is the UN?
How much time do we have? This may take a while. Well, if we think back to 1945, the UN was created out of the ashes of World War II, really out of the destruction of World War II. And President Franklin Roosevelt realized, along with other international leaders, that we needed an institution to bring the countries of the world together to focus on problems peacefully, and not the way we had done in World War I and World War II on the battlefield. So that's really was the creation of the United Nations, and it has evolved over the years. It really was formed to eliminate the scourge of war, to promote economic and social development, and to enhance human rights. But really the mandate of the UN has gone far beyond that. If we look at diseases like Ebola, we look at situations today, we're dealing with terrorism, we're dealing with climate change. They weren't even talking about climate change. So the UN has a much broader agenda than what it had in 1945, and it plays a much more prominent role in bringing the groups together, governments in particular, the 193 governments that make up the body of the General Assembly at the United Nations. But as Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State and former ambassador to the UN, said, the UN is indispensable, but it's not perfect, and it is absolutely indispensable. That's the 20-day overview into about 2 minutes.
Right. So what have you learned by doing your work here? I mean, you come across, world leaders, movement makers. Any specific thing that you've learned that stayed with you?
Well, the thing is, at the United Nations, you get such a cross-section of people. For example, you'll have folks that were, first off, high-level, well, really everybody at the United Nations that I've met anyway is very competent, but you also have upper-level people who can talk about genocide, they can talk about human trafficking, they can talk about climate change. But the UN is also a magnet. It brings in groups that are interested, people who are interested, like Dr. Jane Goodall. She was on the program several years ago, and she is just remarkable. The woman spends 300 days a year traveling to promote sustainable development and to combat climate change. Bring in people like George Clooney, who was involved, especially focusing on Darfur. There is just such a broad range of celebrities, CEOs, non-governmental organizations, faith-based groups. Just about every religious group that I know of anyway has some involvement at the United Nations. So it's really the crossroads of the world. All the roads of the world, they no longer lead to Rome, not a slight to Italy, but really, it's really the epicenter of the world is at the United Nations.
Right. So what spurred you to interview all these people the last 11 years?
Well, this program, Global Connections Television, really started in Frankfort, Kentucky on a community access television station. And the idea was to interview people who were involved in international activities. Now, most people don't know and probably don't care that Frankfurt is the fourth smallest state capital in the United States, with about 50,000 people in the city and county. But even at that, there were large numbers of people who were involved in international activities. For example, Rotarians who would go overseas on a group study exchange program. Or we had a sister cities program with San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic. There were a lot of activities underway that the local media just never covered. So I thought, why not have a TV program that would focus on these issues and bring these people in to talk about this, and we could learn more about what was happening. So that's how it started many years ago. And it just evolved and got more, I don't say interesting, but anyway, got more popular. And as we moved along, I was here at the UN. I was involved in groups that would come to the UN from time to time. And so 11 years ago, I approached UN Television and asked them if there's some way we could develop some kind of a situation where I could borrow the studio if I were in town, and if it were free. It has to be, somebody else can't be using it, obviously, if a UN person needs it. So I don't work for the UN, I don't receive any funding from the UN, but they are kind enough to let me use it. But what I do with this program is I get private funding, get 3 or 4 funders who fund my part of it, and then I give it away as a public service. So it is now going around the world. We estimate that conservatively it's reaching, as we extrapolate this now, easily potentially over 60 million viewers a week around the world.
Wow.
But universities are picking it up, community access television stations, PBS stations, a wide range of other groups are using it, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, different groups like that. So the idea is to help inform people about international issues that impact their lives. That so often we don't realize this, but they actually do. So that's really the sort of the genesis of the program.
Right. So when people are watching, right, and you bring these issues to light, what would be one simple step that they could take to support, what's going on in our world?
Well, the first thing I would encourage people to do, if you live in a community, and most people do, live in communities where you have community access television stations, I would encourage them to take a look at what's on the air, what is the content being aired, and go talk to the station manager, see if you can't start your own program. And it doesn't have to be an well, it could be an internationally oriented program, or it could be a local program, whatever. But the idea is to help get more information out. That is so critical. But people, I think, we need to be more involved in learning about what's going on, especially in areas of climate change, gender equity, these problems that really are just mushrooming every day, and we must learn more and more about them if we're going to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I would just encourage people to start getting more involved, to learn as much as possible, and get involved with groups that are working to combat climate change, to make sure that women have equal opportunities, to make sure that human trafficking does not exist. But we all have a role to play to help create a better world.
Right. Well, a hot topic nowadays is fake news, right? And when you're doing your research and you're talking to all these people who come through the doors of the UN, what are some of the tools that you use to ensure that the research you do and the news you read is accurate?
Well, I just get good guests. That's the trick. I've always said you get a good guest, you got a good show. That's the way it is. I get you on and things go well. But no, you just really, as I look at these guests, and I don't do background checks on them or anything like that. I just see what they say, and if it makes sense to me, or if it sounds reasonable, or if it's not some falsity, then I invite them to be on the program. And so it's getting so more and more that people want to be on the program, and they want to be involved, and they want to get their message out. Because the media, I'll say this about the U.S. media because I'm part of this crowd and I can say this, but the U.S. media do not cover these issues in great detail. If you look at the United Nations, the UN is 80% humanitarian programs, 20% General Assembly, peacekeeping, Security Council. Probably 95% of all the coverage of the media is on that 20%. The peacekeeping, the General Assembly, well, not so much the General Assembly, but the Security Council. Then you've got all these other UN agencies, the World Food Program, the UN Children's Fund, World Health Organization, that are out there really doing Herculean work and get very little publicity for it. And most people in the United States are not aware of this. We support the UN, the US citizens do, usually 45 to about 84% of the time, but we don't understand what the United Nations does. And part of the problem is the UN is not taught in the schools, the UN is not focused upon by the media, and we don't really have an idea of what's going on.
Right. So at Impact Mania, we always ask every interviewee who has left an imprint on their professional DNA. Now, I'm sure there have been many, but if you would have to name one, who would it be that have left, this, who has made you the journalist and that you are today?
That's a good question. Like I said, how much time do we have on this? I'm going to have to come back and talk about this in a few minutes. I'll tell you what, we'll take a little break, and I'll come back and answer that.
Sure.
Well, you're watching Global Connections Television, which is a privately funded, independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guests. We would invite our viewers to go to our website at www.globalconnectionstelevision.com and tap into some of our previous programs. Also, if you're involved with any public broadcasting system, community access television station, or perhaps a university that has an intra-campus television hookup, or you just have a website and you're interested in our programs and would like to share them, please do so. Go in, upload them, download them, whatever you want to do, and share them, because Global Connections Television is provided as a public service, free of charge, at no cost. Today we're having a little bit of a different type of program. Normally I get to ask all the questions and my very well-informed guests give all the answers, but my guest today wanted to switch this around a little bit. So we're talking about Impact Mania, and we're also talking about Global Connections Television. Paksy, you asked a minute ago about any one person. I would think over the years, just somewhere along the line, I wouldn't say a person per se, I would say a series of events really kind of moved me in this direction. I was in the U.S. Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic several years ago, about 100 years ago, to be quite honest. And so I've spent 2 years there. Then at the conclusion of that contract, I thought, well, I could either go to South America or go back to Kentucky and get a master's degree. So I said, well, I'll go to South America. Went down for about a year and hitchhiked around in Central and South America and came home, got a couple of master's degrees, went to work, and that really opened my eyes to international, which had never been possible before. And then in an earlier life, I headed up the Office of Federal and International Relations with the Kentucky State Legislature. And Kentucky and California were the only two offices in the legislatures that had this type of office that worked with folks who came from other parts of the world to visit with legislators in California or in Kentucky. And of course, at that time, that was when the Cold War was melting, the Iron Curtain was rusting, and you had really a tremendous flow of parliamentarians and people who were really interested in trying to develop legislative bodies. So I think those events really moved it forward more so than any one person. But there have been many people along the way.
Sure. So when you were hitchhiking in South America, what was the surprising thing that you learned about yourself?
It was amazing how in those days you could spend so much time with so little money in South America. It was absolutely incredible. But I wouldn't encourage them to go hitchhiking around South America, but it's a fascinating place. Of course, every place in the world, Asia, Africa, it doesn't matter, North America, South America, but there's such a richness of cultures in South America. The physical and geographical diversity is incredible. You have a variety of languages. So I would encourage everyone to take a trip to South America to visit at least several cities.
Right. But what did you learn about you, about Bill?
Well, I learned that I really wanted to pursue international. I think that was the big thing. That was the important thing to me, anyway, that I wanted to move in that direction, that Louisville, Kentucky was not the epicenter of the world. It came as a great
close.
shock. Well, I'm not even sure of that. But anyway, it came as a great shock.
Right. So what's interesting to me is, well, you speak Spanish, right? So that probably
Spoke it
helped.
better 30 years ago, but I do.
So any other interesting guests you would like to have on your show? You haven't been able to tap?
Oh, there's so many people who have expressed an interest in being on the program, and they're just really got a myriad of people in mind, but hopefully someday to get George Clooney on. Michael Douglas has indicated, both of them have indicated an interest in being on the program, but there are so many people out there who are so well versed on these issues, and as I mentioned, we really have to dig to find out about these issues because, especially in the United States, so much of this is overlooked by the media. And I'm not criticizing them. I know they've got areas that are important that they need to focus upon, but there's so much going on at the United Nations and in other parts of the world too that we really need to learn more about, and we have to dig to learn about this. And one way to do it is to go to globalconnectionstelevision.com and to check out some of the previous programs. And as you know, there have been people on there like Dr. Jane Goodall, Ishmael Bea, the child soldier from Sierra Leone. We've had guests from the United Nations talking about genocide, human trafficking. There's just so many topics out there that we just don't read about every day. And these topics are being dealt with at the UN. I've talked about some of them, such as the UN Children's Fund, or we could talk about UNICEF and the World Health Organization teaming up with Rotary International to eliminate polio. This is the largest health program ever undertaken in the world. It's going to save millions of children's lives, eliminates just untold suffering for tens of millions of people, and also save taxpayers of the world $1.5 billion a year that they won't have to spend on anti-polio programs. Kiwanis International had an iodine deficiency disorder program with UN Children's Fund. But there's so many topics and issues that would be of interest to people, but we have to go beyond just reading the newspaper every day, and we have to go to websites like un.org, go to globalconnectionstelevision.com, and there are lots of ways that we can learn more about these issues.
Right. So your personal passion is issues like gender issues, right? And the environment. Where is that coming from?
I think mostly, I'm interested in all the issues, but I try to always focus on climate change because the scientific evidence is overwhelming. Climate change is happening. Now, the scientists may disagree on how fast it's happening, what the dire consequences are going to be, but we can see the glaciers are melting, the seas are rising, desertification is taking place. This is going to it is already adversely affecting our planet, and we have got to slow it down, hopefully reverse it. Reverse it's going to be difficult to do. But climate change really didn't get a lot of publicity, and then you always have this false equivalency of the media who feel like, well, if we have a climate change scientist on, we have to put an anti-climate change scientist on. No, we don't. That discussion is over. Climate change is there, and even if you don't believe in the science, just look at the glaciers. They're melting. Glacier International Park will not have any glaciers in 5 to 8 years. That is a fact, and if they come back, we'll have an ice age to get to it, which we're not moving into an ice age. Gender equity, too, is an issue that I think has not gotten enough publicity. The UN is focused on it. Many groups have. The UN Sustainable Development Goals are looking at that. That's a high priority for them. But those were the two issues that so often didn't get very much publicity. And there are others, too, like human trafficking, and they're getting more publicity. So I think it's try to put the spotlight on these issues because they are so crucial.
Right, right. It's actually, we were talking a little bit, right, that human trafficking is actually on the rise, which is very concerning. Yeah. If you had any guests that spoke more about this issue.
Most assuredly, right. If you go to globalconnectionstelevision.com and especially look at the International Labor Organization guests, most of them addressed human trafficking to some degree. Right. So I didn't list all their names, but anyway, just check it out. But it is definitely on the move.
That's so great.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, hopefully we still have to talk a little more about what you're doing. I don't want to spend the whole half hour talking about our Global Connections television, but again, now you've been involved with the United Nations.
Recently,
yes. And you're going to be more involved in the future.
Hope so, yes, because it's a phenomenal organization, and I agree wholeheartedly, right? There's no other institution like the UN, and we need it desperately. Exactly,
and as we were talking earlier, the UN impacts our lives every day that we don't see it. For example, we talked about UNICEF and the World Health Organization, but you've got UN agencies that are helping to draft the rules and regulations to move aircraft safely in international airspace, to make sure the planes are safe, that you don't have terrorists getting on board, bombs don't get on board. You have the International Maritime Organization doing the same thing for ships on the high seas. We need agencies like that. If you drop a letter in the mailbox in Santa Barbara that's going to Tokyo, it's a UN agency that helps pull together the postal authorities to make sure that letter arrives safely. So we can go on across the board that the UN touches our lives every day in so many different ways that we just are not aware of, and we really need to learn more about the United Nations. And it sounds like you're going to be doing that with some of your programs, the shows that you'll be doing. We've got about a minute left. What are some of the topics you're going to be talking about?
So I'm actually very passionate about the Sustainable Development Goals because I feel that a lot of corporations with their incredible resources can really take part in making a social and cultural impact. And so I would urge companies to look more into, okay, what of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals can I adhere to? And even if it's just one, that would be a great step in the right direction. So there's food for thought for every one of our sectors.
Exactly. And that was a perfect way to sort of wrap it up because the Sustainable Development Goals are so crucial, and they're going to run from 2015 to 2030 over a 15-year period. There's 17 of them, and they deal with everything from eliminating poverty to eliminating hunger, promoting gender equity, to preserving the oceans, to combating climate change. Pick a topic, and there's something there that is of interest to everybody on this planet, all 7.5 billion of us, and we need to focus on this. And the interesting thing about the Sustainable Development Goals is that so many organizations are involved. Almost all the faith-based groups are working on them, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, however many. Service clubs like Rotary International, Lions International, they're involved with some of the Sustainable Development Goals. The environmental groups, I would venture to say every one of them is involved to some degree in some way, shape, or form, but the groups are involved, but so often the members are not aware of that. The grassroots members who pay dues every year, whatever the case might be, get their monthly magazine or newsletter, that they're not really aware that their organization is on the front lines combating poverty, or trying to provide clean water to people. And this is what we have to learn about and move forward on, and if we all have to work together to help create a better world. But Paksy, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting
Thank you,
and a
Bill.
very
Thank
informative
you. It was
program.
great to be
and I
here.
wish you the very best on your future videos
Thank
and
you.
your future television career,
Thank you.
which will happen.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm Bill Miller. Thanks for joining us today on Global Connections Television.